Hello, friends. Gregg Braden here. Over the last few days, I've had a lot of requests asking me to comment on a lot of things happening in the world today, everything from the war in Ukraine to climate change to American politics to global politics to Donald Trump. I mean, you name it. All these are important, and I don't want to detract in any way from the significance of these events in our lives because they're real. They impact all of our lives. My concern is that so many of the requests, the way they are being worded, and the way they come to my office, some of them come to me directly, they tell me that many people are allowing these events to become diversions and distractions in their lives, diversions and distractions that keep them from the focus of the really, really big event that is happening in our lives and in our world today. And that's what I want to talk to you about. You know, we all know there's a battle for our thoughts. That's no secret. There's very little independent media in the world today. The American media, all the different news networks and stations are owned by about 6 corporations that collaborate to create narratives and the languaging to support those narratives down to the words and the phrases that we hear day in and day out. I was in a hotel room recently, had a television. I don't have a television in my home, and northern New Mexico. We can't get a signal. But in the hotel, I was flipping through the channels, and I was just blown away at how similar the languaging was. I mean, one topic would come up, and they would be exactly the same words, exactly the same phrases, whether it was liberal media or conservative media or what some people call publicly funded or independent media. So we know there's a battle for our thoughts, and that's no secret. There's a battle for our beliefs, obviously. What do we believe about climate change? You know, is it real? Is it not? Is it human induced? Is it a natural rhythm of the earth? What do we believe about the origins of the universe, about the origins of our lives, of the human species? There's a battle for our bodies, and that has become very apparent over the last few years. What does it take to get healthy? What does it take to stay healthy? And what is our relationship to our bodies in terms of society? Do we have the sovereign right to determine what goes into our bodies, or is it a community decision based on what's best for the community? We haven't answered that question yet. It's still an ongoing question. All these things are important. There's a deeper battle, even deeper battle. There's a battle for our very humanness. And I've talked about this on a number of our videos. There's a battle for our biology that is going on right now. And the movement that is called the transhuman movement has really brought this to the forefront. The belief that we are a flawed species, that by the nature of our existence, we are flawed, and that among those flaws are things like our emotions that cloud the logic in the choices and decisions we make. Even the way that we conceive life is considered in some scientific circles to be inefficient. You know, why risk a natural conception when you can gene engineer an embryo to be precisely the way that you want that embryo to be, the perfection that you see? And the question becomes, whose idea of perfection are we using? What eye color, what hair color, fast twitch muscles, slow twitch muscles for athletic performance, high IQ, low IQ, all of that. All of those things are happening, and they're all important. My concern is that even those have become a diversion to something that's even deeper. And this is what I want to talk to you about right now. It is a battle for your divinity. And I want to define divinity because many people link the word divinity with religion in some respect. The very core of the definition of divinity simply says our ability to transcend perceived human limitations. That's what divinity is. It has nothing to do with religion. I can see where religions would wrap their ideas, their dogma around this principle because we are presented with religious figures that have done just that, that have transcended the perceived limitations. Now, think about this definition. First of all, transcend means not just to survive, not just to get by, but to thrive, to become more than the limitations that we have placed upon ourselves in the past, perceived, is just that as well. Doesn't mean those limitations are real. It means it's the way we feel about those limitations, the limitations that we have been programmed to accept. Our divinity is the part of us, it's the part of you that has always been there. It cannot be taken from you. You cannot have your divinity taken from you. Now, doesn't mean that you're always in touch with your divinity, because you can deny your divinity through free will. Certainly, you have the right and you have the ability to deny the divine providence that lives within the cells of your body. This is the part of you that knows things without being taught, deep intuition. This is the part of you that draws from some mysterious and unseen source and brings forth into this world beauty and creations of music and art and sculpture and dance and movement and words, that writes the books, that creates the films and the movies, that shares the ideas. That is all something beyond your biology. Here's the thing: you access your divinity through your biology, the DNA within your body, and the neurons in your heart that we now know are there since 1991 when they were discovered, and the neurons in your brain. These are the antenna, if you will. You can think of them as biological antenna that literally are tuning into a resonant field. They're a resonant antenna linking you to information, to energy that you then transceive into your creations in the world today. Your divinity cannot be taken from you. You can deny it. Also, your divinity can be masked through technology. If you begin replacing your biology with synthetic materials, with polymers, with chemicals, if you begin replacing the systems of your body, the natural biology of your body, your immune system, for example, with artificial technology that tries to replicate your immune system, that will make it very difficult for you to access that information, to access your divinity in that way. It can be programmed out of you: society, your family, your beliefs, your culture, education, science, science that has been hijacked by other interests, science that has been hijacked by corporations, science that's been hijacked by religion, science that's been hijacked by politics, where data is cherry-picked and presented as authoritative, but it's taken out of context, and you begin to believe and hinge your sense of self upon that false science or that distorted science. That can keep you from your divinity as well. And the beauty of all the things I'm saying to you is that when you remove the lies and you remove the distortion and you remove the false perceptions, all that remains is your divinity. It's not something that you have to chase and learn how to become, because it's already you. It's your nature. When you remove everything that's not true, all that's left is your divinity. Now, why is this so important right now? And the reason is why I'm sharing this with you. All of those diversions that people are asking me to comment on. And once again, I do comment on some of those in the other videos. I'm not denying their significance and the role they play in our lives. I'm simply inviting you to have a perspective where those things out there in the world don't distract you from the deep truth of who you are and the fact that there's a battle for your divinity, because when you embrace your divinity, you will not live in the fear that makes you vulnerable to other people's ideas about what your life should look like, what society should look like, and what the world should look like. And that's exactly what's happening right now. All of these things going on are creating fear and uncertainty in your life and in my life. We're in this together. I'm part of this. They create fear and uncertainty. And if your sense of well-being is hinged upon the external world, and that world is full of fear and uncertainty, that makes you vulnerable to other people's ideas, because in your fear, you will say, just make it better. Just make it better. And there is no shortage of organizations, of technology, of politics out there that are more than willing to come sweeping in to meet and honor your request. They say, you want us to make it better? We got a great deal for you. All you've got to do is give away some freedoms, and we're going to make your life very safe and very easy. We've seen this in history before. We've seen it hundreds of years, and we've seen it in many, many nations. When we give our power away to those who promise us safety and protection, including our divinity, when we do that, that is the beginning of the end of the freedoms. That's the beginning and the end of the dreams, of the visions, of the kind of world that you and I know is possible. Your divinity, the battle for your divinity, the beautiful thing about this is the way to win the battle is without a fight. You don't have to fight for your divinity by simply living the deep truth of who you are, by simply becoming the best version of yourself. You have won that battle without a fight, because you have become the very thing that the powers that be fear the most. You have become a fully empowered human. And in the presence of a fully empowered human, you are not susceptible to the fear. You will not be susceptible to the fear of a collapsing financial system, which is happening right now, collapsing banking system that's happening right now. You won't be susceptible to the fear that is being lodged in your heart and your mind, or your hearts and your minds, through the distortion and lies about what's happening in the climate. Yes, the climate is changing. As a geologist, I can tell you that. We've got all kinds of videos out there, not for the reasons you think, and it is not the most extreme that we've ever seen in the history of the world. Far, far from it. And the world has been in a much better place because of the climate changes that we've seen in the past. The problem is that we have built our lives assuming that climate is static. So we have built in places and in ways that don't work with the changing climate. So as we begin to adapt to the natural rhythms, the climate becomes less of a problem for us. And I know that's a very, very different way of thinking. Again, now check the series in this YouTube channel that's called Science, Policy, and Politics. So the videos are broken down. There are random videos that are posted daily, but there are also channels. And there's a channel, it's called Science, Policy, and Politics, SPP. And you can go back and see the science of the carbon dioxide. You can see the science of the temperatures. You can see the science of the rhythms from a geologic perspective, and it does not fit the narrative that you and I are being told today, because the narrative that we're being told today is designed to keep us in fear. That's only possible because we've forgotten who we are, because we've lost our divinity. In the presence of our divinity, we have deep insight, we have intuition, we know what's true for us, we know what's true for our families. We know and trust in the intelligence of our bodies, in the presence of contagions that are either natural or human designed, which is precisely what you and I have been dealing with the last few years. There, in the scientific community, there's no doubt that we're dealing with an artificial contagion that was not a product of some random process in nature. The genetic maps actually show where the genes have been edited and where they've been changed. That's no question in the scientific community. It's not a problem in the scientific community. It's a huge problem for politics. It's a huge problem for international relations. And you and I are subject to all of that. So as we deal with this as a global family, and this is what we are, as we deal with this as brothers and sisters, yes, we need to deal with what's happening out there, but I'm going to invite you, please bear in mind that you're not what you've been told. You're much more than you've been led to believe. All kinds of information, my work and other people's work out there are telling you that in so many different ways. It is all coming under this umbrella of your divinity, your ability to transcend perceived human limitations. And we begin to think and live from the perspective of our divinity, and we lose our fear. This is what breaks the bonds and the shackles of the fear that hold us captive, that keep us stuck in this ancient cycle of fear and control. I don't know about you. I have thought about this a lot recently, and we've talked about this. It's no ordinary time in the history of our world, certainly in the history of our civilization, for many, many reasons. There's a new world emerging. That world's not here yet. And if you're living in this world right now, what that tells me is that you're here for this very show. You're here for the show of the new world. It also tells me that you're probably thinking like I am in this respect. In the new world that's emerging, we don't want to carry the ancient hurt from the world that you and I have known in our lives. We don't want to carry the suffering. We don't want to carry the hate into that new world. And for that hate and suffering and hurt to stop, it takes one generation. One generation has to heal the generational hurt that precedes us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of generations, thousands of years. That is our opportunity right now. The only way that we can heal the generational hurt and offer a new world to our children where they don't have to suffer and they don't have to succumb to the atrocities and the distortions that have created the world that you and I have known. The only way to do that is for you and I to come to terms with that, to heal it in our lifetimes. And so people tell me all the time, they say, well, I'm too old to have children, so it's, I'm not going to affect that next generation. It goes beyond that. Certainly, it is possible to heal generational fear biologically so that when you conceive, that the DNA is no longer predisposed to the fear from the previous generation. That's epigenetics. That's very well known. But even beyond that, in the field, energetically, when we heal that hurt for ourselves and our families and our loved ones in our lives, what we're doing is we're actually creating a balance in resonance in the field so that the DNA, the antenna of the DNA, the antenna of the genes, the antenna of the neurons in our heart and our brain, those resonant antenna, we're giving those antennas something new to tune into that transcends the hurt and the suffering of the past. And in this way, we have the opportunity to heal this generational hurt. We do this by accepting and embracing our divinity. So once again, nothing to do with religion, has all to do with accepting the deep truth of our existence and who we are, what it means to be fully human. And I think perhaps for the first time in a very long time, we're discovering that for ourselves. The question is, do we love ourselves enough? Do we love ourselves enough? Do you love yourself enough to embrace your divinity and live the deep truth of your divinity in your everyday life? And the answer to that question is in the choices that you make every moment of every day, in the way that you treat yourself, in the way that you treat other people, how you speak to them, how you honor them with kindness, how you honor them with truth, how you honor them with love. And that's what I wanted to say to you today. So I want to thank you for taking a few moments, sharing a little bit of your day with me today. I'm just going to invite you to think about this. Think about this as you go about your day and ask yourself, how can I embrace the deep truth of my existence, my divinity, and make someone else's day a little bit better? And I think as you begin to answer that for yourself, what you find is the world around you begins to look very, very different. And this is how we transcend this battle, not fight, but how we transcend the battle for our humanness, the battle for our divinity, simply by becoming the best version of ourselves so we can create the best world possible. Thank you so much for sharing a part of your day with me. Have a beautiful rest of this day, and I look forward to our next.